Okay, hi there. I see we got three or four of us. As you know, I often tend to I tend to start early. Let me pop this open. See who's here. Katie, glad to see you. Uh, Doran, Jenny, Mason, and what I'm going to do, folks, is I'm going to mute all of you. So if you have a question, you can shoot the chat thing, use it, and if it's something that's for everybody, I'll go ahead and share it. If not, I'll get back to you, or you can email me or whatever. To make sure so we understood that. So I'm going to mute all. If I don't mute, what happens is we get an echo, and we also get to hear you saying stuff you may not want everybody to hear. So I'm going to mute everybody and see if there's a bad. There's Mason, there's Rhett. Okay, good. I'm going to mute all, and I'll get us started. Okay, I'm over here in the Zoom. Let's go over to. I'll go over. You probably are. You should be seeing now the canvas, the room. And I want to go back over the introduction, over the announcements, and just kind of make sure everybody understands. I think you do get it, but I'm trying to make sure. When you see an invitation, what that means is I've created a Zoom meeting, and that's how you can access it if you would like to do so. Now, by the same token, you'll also see a link to a class. So I think everybody's got that down pretty well, and including my weekly schedule, as you can see. Now, I want to just take a minute or so, maybe not even that much time, to remind everybody about my virtual office hours. Now, let me pull up my schedule for this week. Okay. Now, I post this on my door at Bailey Business Center. I have this posted in every Canvas room, all my courses, and I have it posted with my advisees. So I have some general office hours, but I'm very specific because sometimes these things can change for weather or something else that might come up. If I do, I will write something on the board if I get on my door, and then let everybody know. But both of them, or at least I will send everyone an email and say, hey, the hours I had for office hours for that day are canceled. But if you take a look here, you could see yesterday I was over at Bailey. Of course, the internet was down, and nobody shared with us, called us, or did anything to communicate to us that there were some workarounds to go. So I learned something yesterday. If we need a workaround, we can try to go to Outlook.com, as long as somebody's put. And what we had there was an email that directed us to some mirror sites. To make a long story short, yesterday was a disaster. At least for me, my class showed up and I sent them home after about 20 minutes because there was just absolutely no use in trying. The server was down. Apparently it's back up, or they've gotten it repaired. And the people in IT, let me say this, I know it's easy to be very critical of them, and I do say at times there's some stuff they don't get right, but they are excellent at what they do, and there's not that many of them, and they say grace over a lot of stuff. So for them to get us back up so quickly is really a testament to their dedication. And I know our system isn't perfect. It will never be perfect, but I can tell you how it used to be here when there was sporadic email, when we had no learning management systems, etc. But I just wanted to say here, you take a look, you're going to see some virtual office hours. I have those emphasized. I would encourage you just to come stop by and see what it's all about. What it really boils down to is this: is I have a recording created, just basically a class we're having now. And I have a little sign there that says, "You're welcome to my office, virtual office." And if I don't answer immediately, I get a ring, a bell, or something like that that tells me that someone has come in. Now, If it's something that you're concerned about, maybe you would want, like your grades or something like that, be aware that I record those. I record those office hours, but I don't post them. I have them there, but I never post them. I wouldn't do it. If it's something that you're really struggling with, okay, it's not a bad idea to shoot me an email, and I will either try to provide you a written, steps of what to try to do, or I'll try to send you a short screencast and say, here, take a look at this. Okay? So I want to make sure that you know about those hours. Those virtual hours for this week, I would say now, are pretty hefty. And as I mentioned down here at the bottom, if you want to make an appointment for me to visit with you in the evenings, I can do that. It's the same deal. It would be just you who would get the link, okay? So I want to encourage you to take advantage of that, of those virtual office hours. Obviously, I'm in my office at those times when I say, like I was in there yesterday till 4:30, and then Thursday I'll be here. I'll have physical office hours over there on Thursday from 3:30 to 5:30. And Friday, it varies. I may try to set up a virtual office hours session. If not, if you want, you can email me and I can try to visit with you however you want to. But you've got a variety of ways to get a hold of me. And also it says, email is probably the fastest. But I want to encourage you to visit these sessions. Just because the truth is, I can do about the same thing I could do if I was sitting in my office in Shawnee, with the exception of sign something. Otherwise, I'm there. And I do understand I have some colleagues who camp in all day and stay there. They can run off to class, but they're camped in every day. Good for them. That's their choice, okay? And in a way, what they're forcing you to do is to have to walk across campus or stop between classes or whatever. And I'm not sure that there's going to be that qualitatively that much difference between what I can do in the screencast when I'm in a virtual office hour. So I want to push that. The second thing is, we're at that juncture where I really have to come back and encourage everybody to make sure that you attend the ground-based sessions. That's important. It's an important piece and an important component. I'm going to tell you why it's important. It is mainly important because as we're trying to do this format and trying to provide it to you in a way that's a benefit to you, that helps you maybe get some control of an already packed schedule, then when I have ground-based days, and the dean walks by and looks in, and there's not a third of the class that's enrolled, I get into a situation where I have to try to defend that, or he does, or both of us. Now, if everybody overwhelmingly said, no, I want you to have physical class, no recordings, nothing, let me know, because I don't think there will be that many of you. There may be, but I don't think it'll be the majority of you. I've tried to set this up, and I can't emphasize enough that on those ground-based days, that is all hands on deck. You should be there. If it's something comes up and you can't, that's okay. But it's not just something to skip if you would have normally attended if we didn't have this method. And the other is this, and then I'll move us on to covering the class session. These recordings are the lecture time. And as you know, most of the time I'm spending, I really use it as workshop time, which is like practice, things that you're going to see in later exams in the hands-on parts of them. And so it's imperative for you to see the videos, watch them, and I think I've got the functionality over YouTube where you can make a transcript. You can watch these, and the truth is I can't do too much more to try to assist you in terms of scheduling and materials that are there for you to see, etc., to be successful in the class. Now, stuff like what happened yesterday, when the internet goes down, there's nothing I can do about that. They run that the folks that are running that show are running that show. Well, I want to make sure I emphasize this to everybody because I'm concerned that as we go into the semester, our attendance at the ground-based sessions won't be what they need to be. And they just have to be that for me to say this is a viable model to work. Okay. Now, if you have to be gone, I understand. Okay. And there's going to be those situations for some of you, particularly those of you who are athletes, where you may be out of town the whole week. But that doesn't mean you can't attend this class. You can't get the work turned in for this because it's all there for you. Okay. Now, the convenience that this provides you also is a challenge in terms of your self-management, and it's also a challenge in the fact that I'm not going to every Tuesday look and see who was there, write it down, or call your names out or anything like that. I do get a record of who attends, who logs in. But I prefer, and I would think you prefer, to be treated like adults and prefer to have some flexibility. And that's what we're trying to achieve here, while not having somebody say, well, you're really just running a completely virtual class. And I'm not sure that, except for J-term, there may be some other people out there doing this, but I don't know that they are. And I would be hesitant to make this completely on demand, just simply because of the nature of the material. And I just think because of the institution. That being said, let's go over here for a moment. We'll take a look at the modules. And let me see, anybody got any questions? And thank you for all of you who are here. And I'm looking here and I see 9 participants, so there's 8 of us. And goodness, I don't know how many people we've got enrolled in the course. So my question is, where are they now? Of course, I've said if you watch the thing tonight and by noon the next day, you're good. So I'm hoping that I'm going to have a lot more people who will come on during the evening or whatever and take a look. But those 9 of you who are here, thank you. Okay, I appreciate it. And in the long run, I've done my spiel. I've done what I'm supposed to do. You've got the recording and it's there. Now, as you'll notice, we've kind of been jumping ahead because we worked on, we did Excel 1 and 2, and then I launched into the Guardian payroll. This is that payroll case where we looked at using conditional format. No, we didn't use it. I think we did some conditional formatting, but I know that we did some nested conditional statements, okay, and the if and. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, we may have taken a look at this for a moment. And this is the if statement in use for case 3. So you could upload this one for case 3, this file, or this file, either one. This is from the textbook on Excel, and it's one of those cases there. I think it's in chapter. I'll look at the guide here in just a minute. But to make a long story short, you can see that where the authors will walk you through step by step how I did that. And it's okay if you want to get a file and try it and then just upload it. I'm good with that. This one is this case, as I said, that I had been kind of cultivating and working with for a long time on and off, and you could see. Now, all that being said, I want to make sure that everybody understands I think everybody understands how to upload work. So I'm not going to go through the thing where I do a screen view and show you how to upload it, but we'll say this. When you click the link, for example, it says upload XLS3 here, okay? Now I'm in the instructor mode, but if you're in student mode, there's a green button you'll see information about the assignment. There's a green button. You press it, okay? And you're going to have to scroll down to see where you actually upload the file and you can provide comments. It's a flaw in that. It's one of those pieces here in Canvas that it's one of those things in Canvas. That's a flaw. I've worked with all these learning management systems online for a long time. Just about every one of them that exists, and they all have some kind of little flaw, and that's one of those. So make sure that you don't get caught in that. The other thing, I saw an email today, something about Office 360 wasn't working, and you may have that problem. So I would recommend, unless you live off campus, okay, the lab is open in there, and it's open there, and you can go use it if you need to be able, if the VMware, if you're having any problems with 360 working remote, you can try and go in and use the VMware. Okay, so we've talked some about the logistics. I'm going to go ahead and let's go over to the files section for just a minute. And we're going to find the companion files. For this textbook. And let me see, I've got them on my desktop, but you'll want to find them, and they are called Excel Companion Content. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and do that search. Make sure that it's there. Yeah, I think we'll get them in that Excel Companion. Let's see what we get here. All right, let's do a look down the file, because I know I've uploaded the zip file here. All right. Here it is, Excel Companion Content, and that's the zip file. And you'll need to open up and download it and take a look, because that's where, I think it's up to chapter 45. Now, I also want to go back over to that guide, and we'll go over there and in the module. At the end of each module, I have those materials there that you're going to be using. So we're looking at week 2. Here it is, the resources for the Microsoft Excel cases. All right, and we can look at it in here, and you can see for each case, I give you the case, and then the business problem that it deals with, the example files that are in Canvas, and the modules section in Canvas, or the supplemental website. You'll see those files from the Winston text, and the Winston text is this one. Okay. And then XLS3. Each of these cases have a particular business problem and spreadsheeting or design problem or graphics problem or something like that, or model that we can use to deal with those business problems. And so we looked at using conditional statements, and you'll notice we covered doing a payroll and all that. That's a XLS3. And now we come down to XLS4, and this is talking about using formulas and the use of the name manager, cell referencing, and financial ratios. And that's the Darby Financial Services case, and that's over in the welcome file module. And it kind of follows up on your exam. And then we have in the Winston text, we have a file that called Proforma Temp, okay? And it covers chapter 12. So I'm going to start with the Dabney Financial Services, and I want to talk with you about it for just a few minutes. And that's going to be over either in the files or there in the conditional statement. So I'm going to go back to the files section, okay? And I'm going to look for Dabney. Here it is. And I'm going to download it. And you can upload this for your case 4, in addition to those I've got identified out there. We'll open this up. And this is an old case file where it uses financial ratios to make comparisons. Now, you had the financial ratios quiz, and I talked some about that. I also have a copy of an old article about, it's a copy of an old article about it's a short history of accounting ratios. Why do we use them? Well, as I mentioned before, one of the reasons we use these is because it enables us to strip data of any distortions in terms of size and allow us to make comparisons. We can literally compare apples and oranges. We can compare a couple of firms. This is one in which there's a financial company, Dabney, and they were asked by a client to make a recommendation in terms of, would I buy this stock or the other stock? Okay, so let's look at this for just a moment. And you can see here in Dabney, it's going to be Walgreens versus CVS. Both of these firms are competitors. And you'll see this is spreadsheets put together pretty well. Here's the documentation area, okay? And if I scroll over here, here's some output areas for us, all right? And we're looking at their financial statements. We'll take a minute or two and talk about what's a financial statement. Well, it's a statement about either about the revenue versus expenses situation of a company, or about its balance sheet in terms of assets and liabilities, or a sheet that deals with owner's equity, or a statement of cash flows. This one is just, we're looking at their income statements. And this is, I think these are from 2008, okay? But they're still instructive because they help us determine whether which stock we're gonna buy using the different criteria. Now over here, all right, I have some results of each of those comparisons, and the one that had the superior, had a superior ratio is shown in yellow, okay? Now, if you come down here, you're going to see an income statement is broken into the following. It's net sales and it's cost of sales, okay? And those are revenues. And here's CVS versus Walgreens. And then the cost of sales. And then the gross profit margin. Okay? Now, for a moment here, let's click on the formula. And you'll see the name manager. And you can see I have put in a tremendous amount of time and energy putting together a name manager and designating a name for every single facet of this, for every single variable in this set of financials. Then it makes computation much easier. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay. Here we are, the current ratio, and there is the operator, which is divide, and then there are the two variables. Now, understand, and I know it's a lot of work to set something like this up, but if you're going to be using it on a long-term basis, then you'll want to have that type of you'll want to have the name manager and use it so that you're looking at variables or the names of variables. You're not looking at cell referencing, okay? And we've got those there. Now, and we'll walk through each of these. Here's the here's the income statement. Okay. And we start with gross profit or gross margin. All right. Then we see if they have any other income. And then we find out net interest. Are we earning or paying interest? Companies, when they borrow money, they have to pay interest on that money. And there are three ways they borrow money. One is what we call trade credit. So let's say you're a plumber and you buy all the hoses from a supplier at Tulsa. You are engaged in an accounts receivable transaction with them, okay? And they're your creditor. You are their debtor. They send you stuff and you pay them once you receive it. So you have a credit transaction. On the other hand, so you probably will pay some interest. On the other hand, you could have interest income from investments. Okay? So we could see that for these two firms. And we come down and we get the gross income, right? But from that gross income, we've got to take some more out of here, okay? And we start to take a look at expenses, selling and store operating. These folks operate retail, as you know. And then any opening costs, loss from discontinued operations, interest expense, and that gives you the total expenses. Now we're going to pop on down here and we're going to get the income before tax, which is basically the gross income, okay, minus total expenses. I got a question here. Just let me pop this open for a second. Sure, absolutely. Let me stop for just a minute. We'll take a look at that. Let me show you one more time and review for you how to create a name manager. I click formulas, okay, top of the toolbar, you click formulas, and let's get out of this. You're going to click formulas, and then when you go into the define names area, I'm in the formulas tab and then defined names, excuse me, and I'm going to click define a name. Now it's going to give me the cell reference. Notice I'm in Dabney D20. Okay, and I'm going to call that let's call it cost of car. All right. Now, let me write this out. You'll notice that I'm running these together. You either run them together or you use underscores. I prefer just to run the name of together. It's just easier for me. And I've got the cost of cars, all right? And I designate that cell. Now, I'm going to put a figure in here. I've now created that cell. Now I've designated as the cost of cars. And let's go up into the name manager. And you'll see it right there. And you'll see the name of the name, the value, what it refers to, that is the cell reference, and its scope. The scope can be the workbook or just a tab. But one of the things, and we won't see this, but when you're out there, you're going to find it will be those times where you'll have something, a recurring formula, say first, second, third, and fourth quarters. And by using the name manager and designating a certain cell for certain things, okay, and making that applicable through the workbook means everywhere in every spreadsheet you've got that. I see another question. Let me take a look here for a sec. Display the name of what's in the cell. Could you show us how to get the formula bar to display the name of what's in the cell instead of, yes, about to do that. All right, but you've got to set the name manager up first. So we've got the cell in there, okay? Now, I'm going to come over here to E20, and I'm going to define another name. In fact, I'm not even going to use the name. I'm just going to put a figure. Now, let's say this is the cost of the car, and this is some kind of expenses or something. And so I'm going to do an operation here, and I'm going to put equal, okay, and then I'm come up here to the using formula. And put cost of cars minus, and that's that E20. I think it's E20. And assumable goods. There you are. Did that help? Now, I don't have to define this name. I can just put in the figure. But here I define the name. So I went into the formula bar. I used define name. Okay. And then I put a value in there. And then and if you look over here, you'll see it says cost of cars already there. I took this, I entered this figure, the 5,000, and I used cost of cars minus E20, and I got the 5,000. That help? Okay. I think we covered that, so let's roll on along. Now, we got these expenses, and we come down to total expenses, and we get those. And then we take the income before income tax, we subtract income tax, and the income tax for this company is, I think it's 40%. That's what that looks like there. And notice that we have the numbers in brackets and parentheses showing that they're negative numbers. And then we have loss from any discontinued operations, and that gives us our net income. All right. Then we move into the final part of this, and then we take a look at our earnings, okay, in our earnings in relation to our revenue. And the first one is average, and we get the average number of shares outstanding. These are two publicly traded firms, and so on average, okay, they'll have that many shares outstanding, meaning people have bought their stock, and it's out there. The other is, of course, this is for Walgreen, and then we get the earnings per share, but just simply dividing. You'll notice we divide the net income by the average number of shares. Okay. Now, let's think about this for a minute. And let's look at this EPS, the earnings per share, and you'll see it's up there, CV EPS. Okay. And then here's the CVS price per share. Now think about it like this. I'm earning $2.20 per share, okay? The price of a share is $28.74. Now this is common stock, so it's not like you would like a bond. It's not like a stock that's going to give you a guaranteed dividend or anything of that nature. It's just plain common stock that you purchased. That's all it is, okay? And you take a look at this and you say, okay, there's $2.20 of earnings per share, and the price of the share is $28.74. Now, earnings per share, these are also earnings available to the stockholders. A company can make a decision with its earnings per share. It can reinvest it back in the company, retained earnings, or it can post a dividend. It's up to the company. All right. And common stock doesn't give you the same rights as other forms or types of stock. And there are even some forms of common stock where you'll get some type of an annuity, a guaranteed income. We guarantee we'll pay $1 or $2 or $5 or whatever as a dividend on this common stock. It's usually assumed that the stock price, the price of the stock is higher, and that's how you make money off of stocks. So we've got this price per share, and this is our first time to see how do we compare. So basically, you could say I spent $28 to make $2. Not a great proposition. Now, in terms of percentage return, it's not bad. It's a little under 10%. That's pretty good. Over here, here's Walgreens, and their price per share, or their earnings per share, is $2.18, and their price per share is $36.93. So you could say theoretically that they spend $2.18. They spent $36.93 to make $2.18. Okay. So we look at that, and this area here has a lot to, well, we're looking at income of the company, and how does the income of the company contribute to its value in terms of its common shares. Then we come down, we see the balance sheets. Notice that we have assets, current assets, we have long-term assets like net property and equipment, goodwill, intangible assets, and then these others. And that gives us our total assets. Then we have our liabilities. Okay. And as you can see, I've done some formatting here so anytime I hit a total or a subtotal, I have it darkened. I've bolded it out so it's readily there in front of you. And then any long-term liabilities. And so I get the total non-current liabilities, and I get the total liabilities, and I look at the shareholders' equity, and that is what have they put into the company. Okay? And that should typically equal all the stock that's outstanding. Now, so we come down to the total liabilities and shareholders' equity. All right. And now we're ready to start talking about making a comparison. What you see here is that the income statement, everything from A12 all the way down to C70, that's what we call a pro forma. It's a Latin word meaning for the form of or for the sake of. Pro forma. And it's a tool that helps us make decisions. Sometimes accounting students will take this class and they get confused about what a statement is versus a pro forma. A statement or a ledger should be entered and calculated according to generally accepted accounting procedures. A financial pro forma, it's a tool. It helps us make some decisions. And so you could say, well, these are my baseline data that I'm working with. And so what I want to come over here, and now I've created a comparison chart. Now notice how I did this. I created a table here. Notice that I lead the reader's eye from the left to the right. I've got the nice borders here. Inside here, I've got all borders. And I've used conditional formatting to choose the one that's higher, so we can talk about these. The current ratio is how much money do I have on hand of what we call cash or near cash to pay my bills. That near cash will include inventory I could sell off. It will include, say, a 6-month CD the company bought, maybe a 9-month or 2, or a CD that can be reinvested or can be sold at the end of the year. Anything that's a year or less is a current asset. Then we have what we call the quick ratio or the acid test. And we can click on that. We can see it's the current assets minus inventory divided by the current liabilities. So we say, okay, we don't know what we know what the cash is worth. It's cash. Okay, we have a bank account. We don't know what we'll get for what we'll be able to get for our inventory. So we subtract it out to get this, what they call the acid test. Okay. Now we come down, here's another ratio, and this is the total assets utilization. And here's what we're saying. We've created all these assets. We've hired people. We have plants. We have equipment, etc. We have retail outlets. All right? How well are we using them? And the one way we can tell is if they generate revenue. Everything starts with a sale. Every business has what we call a value proposition, a reason that people will pay them to exist. They meet a need. Okay, and so you want to say, okay, I'm McDonald's, and I've spent so many $1 million to put a facility in. Well, was that a good decision or not? Well, we start to look at that, and we use the total assets utilization to see how much for every dollar that we've invested do we make. Because we're looking at sales divided by total assets. Now for CVS, they look pretty good. Anything over a 1 is good. And here, Walgreens has blown it out of the water. What this might say is, my hunch would be that if you looked at the per square sales, the sales per square or revenue per square foot for their stores, there's a dramatic difference. And it could be due to any one of a number of factors. This is something that retailers, Macy's, Walgreens, any physical retailer pays special attention to this, because they want to make sure if those few people are still at the mall, or if there are any left, they pay rent to the people who own the mall, and that's usually a commercial property company, and they usually pay rent plus some kind of fee based on their sales. And so you want to make sure that you're getting the maximum amount of sales per square foot. Hang on just a minute. I got somebody here. I'll be right back. Pardon me. I'm sorry. I'm in the middle of a class. What did I do? I am. Thank you. Okay, sorry about the interruption. Somebody doing an air quality survey. All right, I knew I should have stayed up at the other office instead of doing this, but that's life. All right, nonetheless, I'm putting these money in terms of assets into the company. Does it generate sales? Enough said. I think we've covered that. Then we come to this is a ratio that's a little counterintuitive. But what it really says is, how do you look? How does your debts versus assets, how do they look? And if you look at the formula for just a moment, okay, this is the total liabilities divided by total assets. Now, with this ratio, it's easy to get confused until you remember that the key part is the denominator. And that's the total assets. And if I want to, you have to think about it like this. The smaller that ratio, what it means is that the assets are larger relative to the liabilities. And you'll see that both of these companies are at about 0.43, okay? In terms of their total assets utilization. So they're both pretty efficient. Now, if you were, and as the total assets gets bigger and total liabilities get smaller, it's even better. You're more efficient and you're producing sales from those assets. There's just no other reason to do that. Then we have a thing called return on assets, and this is simple. We take the net income and we divide it by our total assets. So we say, okay, with all of my assets, what kind of net income do I generate? And again, if I don't have sales, I don't generate net income. Okay? And then if you look over here, you take a look at Walgreens. Walgreens looks decidedly better. Okay? And their return on assets is about 2-to-1. That could be due to any one of a number of factors. It may be that Walgreens has a better drive-through than CVS. My hunch would be that I use Walgreens for any prescriptions. And I know that Walgreens has a robust, the one I am at, has a very, very robust, you drive through and get your medicine. The CVS store across the street, if they have a drive-through, it's kind of not easy to see or get to. And I notice it looks like they sell a lot more stuff off of the floor. But prescriptions are really where they make their money, let's be honest. And so peddling those prescriptions, it may be that Walgreens does a better job with their drive-through. Okay? And then you get return on equity, and we'll click on that. And that's the net profit divided by the equity. Here's the point. When people invest in a company, whether they invest as partners or they invest in and buy shares of a public firm, they expect to get something for it. They expect a return. And so the higher the ROE, return on equity, the better. Okay? There's a thing called the risk-reward paradigm. And here's what it means. If I have $100 in stock A and I make 5% return, and I look over here and I see at stock B, that share that and I can put in $100 and earn 9% return, $9 return. I'm stupid to not go with B. But the truth is, typically B probably has more risk. So we want to know, what kind of return do I get for my investment as an equity shareholder? And that's one of the ways we compare these companies. Then we compare them on the basis of their profit margin. Look at them. Both of them are at 4%. For every dollar they make, they have a profit of 4 cents. You go, wow, how do people stay in business doing that? Well, that's why they've got thousands of locations, both of them. That's why Walmart's got, I don't know how many stores. Profit margin is about, per store, is about 1.5%. That's pretty astounding to you. Think about the fact that they've got all these stores everywhere. And they're so efficient in terms of what they do. So that's, that's one of those things that when you look at it, you start to say, okay, what am I getting for my investment? And then finally, we have the price to earnings ratio. And this is the price per share over the earnings per share. So the price per share for CVS, for your price is 12 times greater than your earnings. Now, if you flip that around, okay, if you flip that around, you're looking at the earnings per share divided by the price per share. That gives you, lets you put things into perspective. And then the same thing for Walgreens. Now, as we've had to compare these, so as we compare them, the one that has the better ratio, I'm going to highlight that. Because in the end, the spreadsheet, the name manager, all this stuff that we do, as I've said before, we take this data, all this stuff is data, and we turn it into information. And it becomes information when I do the comparison. And I provide the reader some type of a sense of, okay, which is better? And I do that using the coloration here. All right? And I could have used conditional formatting. Because I've got a simple thing, I just went ahead and did the fill. But I can look at this now and I could say, okay, looks like to me Walgreens is the better investment, because its ratios are so much better. And the other telling thing would be this. When I come back to the debt ratio, boom, I said, okay, they're equivalent there, and their profit margins are there, but their current ratio, total assets utilization, return on assets, return on equity, the PE ratio, Walgreens, it looks to me, is just blowing them away in terms of how well they handle their sales. Okay, and if you look over here, you'll see the sales for CVS, 87 million, their net sales 87 million, Walgreens 59 million. So Walgreens generates less in terms of sales, but does a better job handling those sales in terms of generating returns for the shareholders. So for I would say invest in Walgreens. Okay? And again, this shows you how we can use the name manager, use the defined names. We can create a comparison. This is an output area where we do the comparison. We provide the end user or the reader some kind of visual that communicates easily and quickly which one is better. And like I said, you could use green fill on this for all intents and purposes. And I could come here and we'll take these two. And I'll go back to home. And I'm going to use the conditional formatting. And I can highlight the cell rules. And the one that's greater than, I'm going to give it a green fill. Okay? And I could just carry this on down if I want to. It's a little bit more work that I'd want to do just simply because I don't have that many. But because this looks like it's caution, I could improve this by making this fill a green. Okay. Make this a light green, etc. And signal to the end user. So that's one tweak I would do with this is I would change those to green, designate, so I alert the reader that it's not, this isn't caution, it's good stuff. And the better value or the higher value, the value that I'm in for one company versus the other is there. And I could just go through it. I'll just do this real fast. So let's put that in. And so I can improve that. There's always a way you can improve one of these. And here's one where I just simply, should have used that nice green. And I'm done. I could have come over here and in the financials, and I could have used in these financials, I could have used I could have used some borders or that type of thing, but I did a pretty good job over here putting this into a pro forma format. So this is the Dabney, which you could, if you wish, you could upload for credit. This is one of those cases I've worked on. And I'm going to close this off now. Okay. And we'll go back to the modules. So if you want to upload Dabney, you may. You already have what you need to upload for 3, and that's where we looked at. We had looked at Guardian. I think we also took a look at this for case 3, and I want to go back for just a moment now, and let's roll on down here. Here's upload 4 here. Here's a key. And let's look at this and see what this one is. Okay, this is the Performa module. And let's download this for just a minute. And this one you'll want to save. You can open it up, save it to your desktop, and then upload it for the credit. It's a Performa, and it's, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be showing us another financial. Let me enable the editing. Now this is one of these where the text, and there in the guide for the resources file that I've got there for you, it will tell you where you will find this. I think this is from chapter 12. But notice what we've got going on here. It's the same kind of thing. We've got their, we have their a Performa for their sales growth. Then we have a Performa that deals with their assets, their current assets and current liabilities. Then an income statement. They've got it laid out a little bit differently than I would do it, but that's okay. And then they have an output area over here for you, okay? And we'll click on the formulas for a moment, and let's see if we've got some name managers. And yes, we do. And they've used that name manager, just like we did in the Dabney. And this is a set of assumptions up here. This is an assumptions area, okay? And this could be improved. First of all, I put assumptions, all right? And then we have the balance sheet, and here's the balance sheet. Cash, marketable securities, etc., the retained earnings. And this looks like years 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we build that pro forma. We use these assumptions, and we build the pro forma using it, all right? Now, let's take, for example, we've got the current assets, okay? And we have current assets over sales, and they're going to walk us through that process there. And so the current assets for year 0 are 150. And let's see if they give us something that will help us see the growth and we have the sales growth. Well, let's just go down here because this is where we got, yeah. Oh, here we are. Okay. This is the blank pro forma that they had. And from this, we can build it. Yeah, we can build a balance sheet from this income statement that they've got provided here. Here are the sales. And notice that, let's take a look at year 1 here. I apologize about that. I should have just popped in and looked at it for 3 or 4 minutes. Boom. Okay. In year 0, I had sales of 1,000, right? And in year 1, we had that times L29. Let's see what L29 is. That's the sales. It's D30, okay? So the sales times L29, and L29 over here is the sales growth. See where it's gone hot, plus D30, okay? So that gives us the new sales growth figure. Now, we could have and should have used Name Manager to do this, but if we don't and we're lazy, all right, we're building a pro forma, and what we're saying is that the sales will grow 2% a year, okay? So we're just basically taking D30, okay, which is the sales, times L29, which is the sales growth, plus D30. And it's, you know, it's a little bit more work to do. What I would have done is this. I put equal D30, and I'm going to make sure that I put the 30 on there because I want to stay on row 30. I'll put a $sign there. And I would do times, and put a parenthesis, 1 plus L29. And I'd make L29 an absolute cell reference. Okay. And voila. And then I should just be able just to carry this all on across. What was confusing is that we were taking that D30. This is one of these things with a formula that I think, if you use the Name Manager, it's simple. It's going to be sales times sales growth. Okay, it's going to be sales plus sales times sales growth. I just inserted the 1 there and did it, I took a shortcut. But if I have the Name Manager, I could insert those and use them as such. Okay, this is one of the reasons why you would want to do that in order to build your pro forma. Okay, and the rest of the workbook walks you through that process. But certainly, you would want to use the the Name Manager, but in this case, they've chosen not to do that. But they do show you a pro forma. Okay. and they give you the income statement, and then they walk you through the process of any cash and marketable securities, and this is to build a balance sheet and your current assets, okay? And let's see if we've got some current asset growth, and we know that current assets is 15%. So how would I do year one? Let's just look at this for a moment. Current assets. We know that current assets are going to be 15% of sales. So for year one, it's going to be equal E30 times P29. And so I've got $153, which is 15% of this figure. And I would just do it appropriately. See, and we'll go ahead and we're going to stay on row 30. Okay, so I'm going to put a dollar sign in front of it. I'm going to make the P29 an absolute cell reference. This is doing it the hard way, folks. And boom. And then I can just carry it on across. And do that. And then we know that gross fixed assets equal 90% of sales. So see, I've got this pro forma here. I had this assumption area here, and I just build it through the rest. If you want to do that and then submit it or do part of it just to see it, that's fine, okay? But the bottom line is I just simply take those income statement figures that are already there and I build the balance sheet from them using these ratios. So it's just another example of why the ratio using them is important. We can deal with gross fixed assets. Gross fixed assets is going to equal 9% of sales, so it's going to equal, this is for year one, E30, and I'll make sure I stay on E30, put a dollar sign, okay, times this ratio, and I'll make that a pure relative ratio. And I could dig these out if I wanted to and go ahead. And then I'm ready to just drag and drop. And for the accumulated depreciation is 10%, okay? And of the depreciation. So I've got it looks like a 10% growth each year of depreciation. So let's do the pro forma there. And we've got the depreciation RI, okay, so it's 10% of sales, and it's across the board a 10%. So it's going to equal, it's an across the board. Well, of course it would. So it's going to be 10% of sales equals the percentage, and we'll make that a absolute cell reference, and that's going to be times sales. I'll make that E. We'll put a dollar sign around 30 on that row. Boom. Okay. You'll notice, and I think with this, what you've seen me do this and not repeat this enough, is that I can build the balance sheet on the basis of the income statement. And this income statement, this pro forma, it starts with year one, which we would say are our base period, and then we look at changes or increments in each of those, okay? Now the net fixed assets, it's 60% of sales, so, and we don't have a beginning figure for that, don't give us one for year zero, but we could get it. for year zero, it's going to equal D30, and we'll stay on the here, and that's going to be times, and we're looking at net fixed assets, and that's 60% of sales, and we'll make that an absolute cell reference. Now we've got it. Okay. Now it just becomes a question of equal 30. And again, we're just filling in. We're using these ratios as a way to take the income statement and build a balance sheet. And that's, we're working on the net fixed assets, and that's going to be that 60% there. And we'll go ahead and boom. And we've got the net fixed assets, so we could just move on through. That's our net fixed assets. So we've got that. And then we can do total assets. And the total assets are going to be, well, it's going to be the current plus the gross fixed. And we'll get, let's see if we've got a ratio we can use, or we just come on down here and do the net fixed. Oh, wait a minute here. Yeah, we've got the accumulated depreciation, the net fixed, and then the total assets. And that's going to be, let's see, if we've got a total assets ratio we can work with, or we just throw it in here. Well, the total assets for year zero, and that's going to be the net fixed assets. And we're going to take the gross fixed assets, okay? I'm going to take that, and I'm going to make that 8. Make sure that we stay on row 17. And it's going to be plus pardon me, it's going to be minus the accumulated depreciation. This will be staying on D18. And that will be plus, let's just do this easy way, okay? I'm making this harder than it needs to be. This is going to equal, we got the net fixed assets, we did that over sales. The total assets, it's simple. It's going to be the gross fixed assets, I'll put that on 17, put that dollar sign in front of the 17. It's the gross fixed, the total assets will be the gross fixed assets plus the net fixed assets. And we'll take it, play that ball game. There's going to be, there's always dispute over this one. And away we go. We can look at current liabilities, etc. And that's pretty much, so if you wanted to upload this, mess with it a little bit, or upload it with it as it is, you've seen how we've done this. We've used some assumptions area. We've built the income. We had the income sheet. We built it, and then from the income sheet, we build the total assets. And this case, it's there in that Winston text, and I think it's chapter 12. I believe it's chapter 12, figures 6 and 7, and that's the narrative around this case. They will walk you through step by step what to do here. But you can see the similarities between this, what we did here versus the CVS versus Walgreens case. In each one, we used the ratios we used ratios to make a comparison, and then in this case, we used the ratios to build a balance sheet. Okay? And away we go. I'll check on what would be a good convention for handling these fixed assets, the total assets, because it should be current. I'll tell you what I'm doing. My brain is not working, folks. I'm sorry. The total assets, will equal the current assets, okay, plus the net fixed assets. I am so sorry. And that'll be 19. Brain went dead. I knew something didn't look right. So I've got the current assets, the total assets equal the current assets, okay, plus the net fixed assets, and that gives us the total current. Now, I want to talk about just a minute, just for a second, so I haven't confused this any further. Notice that I've got accumulated depreciation, okay, and then I have net fixed assets. The depreciation is an expense. It's a non-cash expense, but when we use equipment that we've bought, we do have to account for its use or its wear and its tear, okay? So as we constructed, we had the gross fixed assets. We were given that, and we knew we were given the accumulated depreciation. So we got the net fixed assets simply, we got that in terms of D30 times the sales. And then we got the total assets of current assets plus net fixed assets. I'm sorry, but we should be able now just to run this on across. And so we've got the total assets. We can do the same thing down here with the liabilities using the ratios and probably using the name manager, although I didn't dig them out. But you can see that kind of the theme we've got here. We're using cell referencing, we're using the name manager, we're building a pro forma, okay, that allows us that allows us to create a financial statement or to compare two companies' financial statements. Let's see which one we might want to invest in or see which one seems to be performing better. Okay, folks, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And again, I think this is that key that was over there. You could download it and save this on your desktop as if you follow along, or you can just upload the key that's there. You've also have the Dabney, you can upload it. So I'm going to close this off. And we'll go back to the modules, and we're working with a little bit with 4. And we'll come down over here and take a look at week 3. And there's 4, a key for 4. You also could input Dabney, okay? All right, folks, thank you so much, and I will see you Thursday.